Hey, we've got less than 2 minutes to go for today's message. So you're watching the video, you got another minute and 42 seconds to go. Go run and get yourself some water, do something, okay? Finish something you needed if you finish. And then, but I like to, and I give it a presentation tip. And actually, I have to step up because I've been mismanaging my time, which is what our conversation is about today anyway. But I like to say if you're going to be broadcasting at 1, try to come on early. Give people a chance to finish what they're doing, close it out. My broadcast is not as crucial that you're there on time. And in fact, most of them are not, by the way, because you can watch the video. But what about the ones where you can't watch the video? Okay. So give people a chance to close out what they're doing if you want to make them get it from the very beginning. Kind of like when you're giving a party. I always say don't penalize the people who get there on time. I like to start on time. So we've got less than a minute to go for today's message. And that's kind of the mindset. But if you've been watching my Monday midday moments, I've been giving tips about speaking. So, in fact, if there's a certain question you have about speaking, put that in the chat, in the thread. And I'm not talking about how do I start a speaking business. I'm saying, if you have a scenario that you may want me to discuss, ask me how would I handle this, and maybe I can see if something I can make a post out of for you. Okay. I just thought of that. So let me know. Let's see what we got. We got less than 30 seconds for today's message. So come on in. And as you come in, even if you're watching the video, let me know where you're viewing in from. Put that in the thread. Somebody else might see it and say, oh my God, I need to be in touch with that person. Because it could be somebody that you actually know. But I've had that happen before, but 2 friends of mine didn't know that they were both following the same thing. So it's time to get rolling here. So let's get on. So come on and let me know where you're coming in from, and let's get going. So goodness to you. And I say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But like I always like to say, isn't it great to have good in front of your salutation? Don't you want to be able to say good morning and good afternoon and good evening? It's great to have good in front of your salutation. So welcome to Truth Thursday. I call it Truth Thursday, where we recognize that TRUTH, tests are rarely understood until testimonies heal. So in creating this broadcast title, first what I decided to do was go with the fact, and I like to give some speaking and creativity tips as well, because as you know, my Monday session is called Speaking with Charisma. So I'd like to give you a little charisma to go with it. But what I first decided to do was go with the fact that truth only needs half the letters in the word Thursday. Second, we've all heard that the truth shall set you free. But I want to add that freedom can be a tough choice because freedom is actually a result, which is also what we're going to be talking about in a way today as well as we talk about Juneteenth. You see, my affirmation, my affirmation for free is facts, FREE. Fact. My affirmation for free is facts, risks, empathy, and excellence. And like truth, you'll find it in my book, Affirmation. Now, an affirmation is an acronym that goes beyond adding a word to each letter. It actually defines and brings the word to life. So can't you see why facts, risk, empathy, and excellence would lead you to being free when you have all the facts, the risk that you're going to take, you feel for what you're going through and somebody else feels it, and that's how you help one another. And then your goal is excellence to attain it. So that's what freedom can be. I sidetracked, but I love it. But let's say that, for instance, we took that free to life, and we see that the true freedom is based on facts. It's not based on luck. It's not based on guesses. So just using that, use risk as that second part of free as an affirmation in itself, and you get recognition is success's key. You see, once you've decided, you take the risk of deciding who you are and who you are. I'm sorry. Once risk reminds us that when we know who we are, we have to be ready to take a chance on being who we are. We may not know how important it is to take that risk and that chance until we do. So recognition is success's key. And remember that freedom can be a tough choice because it is a result. And I say that it's always worth the risk. So, getting into what truth stands for, I always continue to start by embracing that first word, and that's test. Okay, because test is the root. You can't have the freedom, forecast, and fullness of a testimony without the test. And this week, I'm going to be veering off. Uh-oh. Wait a minute, the wrong file downloaded. I can tell you that. I know that for sure. So let me go to plan B, and I always do have a plan B, and now we'll do that with this. Bam, and I'm Sporty King. That's going to be hard to do. Let me see if I can do it this way. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, I downloaded the wrong file, so let me go ahead, and I might not be able to get away with it on this one. Yes, I can, because I'm me. Come on, me. Oh, okay, here's what I'll do. Bam, get rid of this. Get rid of that. 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 And get rid of that. And then do this. And I am back in control of the situation. Am I not? Yes, I am. Okay. All right. I'm back, y'all. Woo, that was close. All right, here we go. Let's see. So where was I? Oh man, I'll tell you about that later. Okay, all right. So my guiding scripture for today will be, choose today whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. Choose today whom you will serve. But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And we'll take a look at the celebration of Juneteenth as a reminder to choose your messengers carefully. Now, as we rattle off and through history, we settle for enough, what I call enough facts, to choose a direction or belief to follow. Such is the case with the celebration of Juneteenth. My thanks to a colleague and to a challenge from my dear friend and mentor, Tracy Brown, who did a post last year that rattled off the surface premise of Juneteenth. The surface premise is that on January 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all the slaves in Confederate states. June 1865, Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of the Civil War and emancipation of enslaved African Americans. Well, as Tracy pointed out, many of us, like myself, unfamiliar with the history, go right along with what I call the shame of it taking 2.5 years from 63 to 65 for these people to learn of their freedom. Well, I'm going to take some liberties and spoiler alert in delivering my message today. My first spoiler alert is Tracy's call to action at the bottom of her broadcast. She said, it's so important to do your research, post something of substance rather than commercialize, like Happy Juneteenth, and then educate, engage, and empower people to understand the true nature of the holiday. And lastly, 12 months. Juneteenth should be a 12-month commitment to support an organization or activity related to interpreting or ending race-based hatred and violence. Commit not just to Juneteenth, but have a 12-month commitment to support something. My second spoiler alert comes with my first liberty in taking us back to my slide about the surface premise. Those first two bullets, because what I want you to do is see, I've crossed out the final word in bullet number 2 so that the sentence ends by talking about the enslaved Africans. I'll tell you why as I give you the historical meaning behind the Juneteenth flag. You see, the flag we see today is the work of artist Lisa Jean Graff, who modified the original Juneteenth flag created in 1997 by Ben Haith, the founder of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation. The flag has a blue and red stripe, a white star in the middle, an outline and an arc that extends across the width of the flag. The white star in the center of the flag has a dual meaning. The star at the flag center is a nod to Texas, the Lone State Star. I'm sorry, the Lone Star State, where Juneteenth was first celebrated. It was in Galveston in 1865, where Union soldiers informed the country's last remaining enslaved people that under the Emancipation Proclamation issued 2 years earlier in January 1863, that they would have been free. Notice I changed were to would have, since the 11 Southern states who had seceded from the Union did not recognize the laws of the North. On a technicality, they were not free until April 1865, following the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse, fought in Appomattox County, Virginia. And I take a breath to say, hey, Roger Carroll. All right. Okay. Here's a picture called Peace in Union, showing the surrender of General Lee to General Grant. It's a reproduction of a painting by Thomas Nast, which was completed 30 years after the surrender. Now, add another technicality of research, and I learned that though surface premise calls this surrender the end of the war, this battle was actually one of the last battles. The Civil War didn't come to an end in Texas. Soldiers fought the last land battle in Palmetto Ranch near Brownsville more than a month after General Lee, my thing is not clicking. There we go. More than a month after General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant. And note that Africans in Galveston were called the last remaining enslaved people. While Texas was the last Confederate state where enslaved people officially gained their freedom, there were holdouts elsewhere in the country. 2 states, Delaware and Kentucky, still allowed slavery until the 13th Amendment was ratified 6 months after Juneteenth. On March 16th of the next year, the Mississippi legislature reached a largely symbolic vote to unanimously ratify the abolition of slavery in the United States, becoming the last of the eligible states to do so. So back to the star. Present day, it also goes beyond Texas, representing the freedom of the African, now Americans, in all 50 states. The ratification of the 13th Amendment ended slavery in all states in December 1865, and I crossed out Americans earlier because, you see, Africans were not Americans until the 14th Amendment provided citizenship, due process, and equal protection. And the 15th Amendment provided the opportunity to vote and hold election and hold office. Now, the burst outlining the star suggests a new star, a new beginning. The date of the first Juneteenth, June 19, 1865, is often added to this flag as well. The arc is across the flag, and it symbolizes a new horizon and hope for the future. The colors, the red, white, and blue, represent the American flag, a reminder that slaves and their descendants were and are Americans. And I stress represent based on what I learned about the 14th Amendment and mentioned earlier, not in a violent way, yet avoiding a surface premise. You see, Juneteenth was officially recognized as a federal holiday in the United States on June 17th, 2021, when then President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. It has never marked the end of slavery in America. Juneteenth should be celebrated for capturing the jubilation of the end of slavery in the Confederacy. So I close out today's message by doing a couple of things. First, take us back and add the full scripture to my guiding scripture found in the book of Joshua, which is the story of how the Israelites conquered the promised land and what they did when they settled there. It says, I'm sorry, give me a second. I have my, but if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, then choose today who you will serve. Would you prefer the gods of your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or will it be the gods of the Amorites in whose land you now live? But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. And I'll combine that and add Tracy's call to action, which is do your own research. Post something of substance rather than just happy Juneteenth. Educate, engage, and empower people to understand the true nature of the holiday. My favorite, as some of you may know, my favorite Bible is called Touchpoint, the Touchpoint Bible, and it has modern day application to scripture to make it easier to understand. Every now and then, they'll have what is actually called a touch point. Here's what my touch point says about verses 24, 2 through 13, leading up to our guiding scripture. And it says, encouragement. Joshua reminded a discouraged people of the time of all the times God had provided for them and demonstrated his goodness. Reviewing past blessings can encourage us to continue to serve God faithfully. Keep records through a journal or scrapbook of the love God has shown for you. When you need encouragement, review what God has already done, revisiting the mementos of his work in your life, and read the Bible in order to refresh your knowledge of the many blessings God has given his people throughout history. So choose your messengers carefully, because the truth is, following should not be just blind obedience. It should involve a choice, a definite decision to go in a certain direction. What is direction? What is the direction that you have chosen? I'm glad to choose Tracy's challenge to do my own research and create this broadcast, because I do wish you a happy Juneteenth celebrated with more awareness. If you'd like to connect and follow one of my favorite messengers, you can do so at tracybrown.com and on her Facebook page, which is called What Is Mine to Do. Roger Carroll, it's good having you on here, because next week I'm going to go back to my focus on my time series and focus on the letter I, which you, actually I'm going to be focusing on the letter E. Oops, I'm going to be focusing on the letter E next week, which Roger Carroll, you gave me a word that exemplary to go with the letter E, and I'll bring that back next week. So anybody, if you want to be one of my co-authors, put a word in a thread that begins with the letter E. All right. And I'm also going to have a special guest next week. One of my best friends here in Charlotte is Eric Lewis, who recently published his first book. And his book is called The Power and Magic. Oops, I got it right here. The Power and Magic of Kindness and a Smile. And as you can see there in the promo, it's going to be called Give Time to Be Kind. And he's going to be connecting our timely thoughts from his new book. Okay? Meanwhile, I certainly thank you for joining me on True Thursday, where we recognize that tests are rarely understood until testimonies heal. And then we also recognize that freedom can be a tough choice because it is a result. I'm Sporty King. I thank you for joining me. Put in a thread where you're watching in from. Thank you again, Roger Carroll, for joining me. This is our one-on-one, and somebody else just joined. But people on the video, put yours in. And again, happy Juneteenth to you. Get some education and learn more about the holiday. Thanks again to my good friend Tracy Brown. She didn't know I was going to do this, so I'm going to give her a shout out and send her a note as well. By the way, if you want to be one of my co-authors next week, put a word in the thread right now that begins with the letter E. Roger Carroll, you already got yours, so don't worry about it. But if you want to put another one, you know you can. All right, I'm going to give it a 10-second countdown and let anybody else get the last word if necessary. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and he is the one. Enticement. Don't let people entice you. Whatever they think they've got that can pull you away from God, it can't work. It can pull you away, but make sure you snap right back. Don't let the enticements of life pull you away from your faith and being who you are. And don't let it stop you from celebrating Juneteenth in the proper way. All right? Okay. Thanks again, Roger Carroll. And we are out of here. Peace.